I'm here with House Democratic leader Cyndi Munson. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of your main priorities for your campaign for governor is focusing and investing in Oklahoma schools. So that's mainly where I want to focus today.
Great.
So student debt is a major issue for graduates. What policies would you support to make college more affordable for students?
Yeah, great question, and I'm happy to be here and back on campus. Well, just a little background on why I care about education so much. I am a first-generation college graduate, and so, of course, I went to UCO, and it's thanks to Oklahoma's Promise. I'm a product of public schools from Lawton, Oklahoma, and so, you know, without education, I would not be where I am today. And I struggle with the same thing with student loan debt. Even though I had Oklahoma's Promise and different scholarships, I still had to take out student loans in order to get my undergrad degree and my master's degree. And so I am a huge proponent of forgiveness programs. You know, at the federal, most of this is really handled at the federal level, but there are things that we can do as a state, and we have focused on, and a place where I have interest is different types of loan forgiveness programs for different types of careers, especially in places where it's difficult to recruit young people or retain young people to stay in the state of Oklahoma. But I think, you know, overall, the biggest challenge that college students face as they're graduating and finding jobs is finding jobs in Oklahoma that pay a higher wage. And so, you know, that debt doesn't feel so like you can't overcome it if you have a job that pays a living wage. And so we have to improve education at all levels, Common Ed, so public K through 12, and also higher education, so we can continue to recruit companies in different industry here that will pay early college graduates or those who are just out of college a better wage. Yeah,
absolutely. So as someone who has attended a public university, how has that experience shaped your views on higher education funding?
Yeah. Oh, it's always been so important. So when I was on campus, I was student body vice president. I had a lot of areas that I was really focused on, and number one was increasing higher education funding, specifically to regional universities. Because when you look at our universities across the state, we have two big ones, the University of Oklahoma and Oklahoma State University, that gets a lot of attention. They also have other funding streams, and other schools do too, but when you're smaller and you don't have large donors who can give to build buildings or different things like that, it makes it really difficult to compete and have the infrastructure you need for a quality higher education. So I have been at the state capitol since I was a college student, advocating for better funding for higher education. In fact, I probably annoyed all my friends and my classmates because I trained them on how to talk to lawmakers and how to introduce themselves and how to articulate their own lived experience. I was very passionate about that, and so I continue to be, especially our Russo schools. This is where 80 to 90% of Oklahoma students come. They come to Russo schools, and then they stay in Oklahoma for jobs that are in the local economy, and that's really important.
Yeah, so I want to talk a little bit about K through 12. Oklahoma often ranks lower in educational outcomes. Aside from funding, what policy changes are needed to really improve literacy, graduation rates, and overall college readiness?
Yeah, this is a big challenge that we're facing in Oklahoma, and something that we are talking about very seriously at the state capitol right now. The unfortunate truth is that it does have to do with funding. We are 50th in the nation because of the lack of financial investments to infuse dollars into our funding formula, and also keeping teachers in the classroom. So our class sizes are growing because we're losing teachers. Outcomes are not great right now around literacy and math, but that's because our teachers are so strained and they don't have the tools that they need in order to help students early on. So not just right now, there's a lot of talk about retention in third grade, but we need to look at early interventions way before a student gets to second or third grade, so kindergarten and first grade. But that does require financial investment. We need instructional coaches, literacy coaches. We need more teachers in the classroom to lessen the class sizes so students have more one-on-one time with their students. The other thing that I would say that Oklahoma really struggles with is that, you know, our families are really struggling in terms of finances. So a lot of kids live in poverty. A lot of students are showing up hungrier than ever before. They have a lot of stress, and that makes it hard to learn. And so when I think about policies outside of just education funding, I'm looking at, you know, what can we do to increase wages? What can we do to bring more jobs to Oklahoma? It all intersects But I really think that education funding needs to be a priority for us to improve all of it.
Yeah. So I want to talk a little bit about how you graduated from UCO. So how did your time here shape your experience and looking into public service?
Yeah. Being a student at UCO is very influential. I'm very grateful that UCO focuses heavily on leadership development, and regardless of what area of study or what your discipline is, I graduated with a political science degree, but my minor is in business and also leadership. And my class was the first to graduate with a minor in leadership. And I'm grateful that I was able to have different internship opportunities and leadership opportunities on campus to help shape my voice and help me to see that I have the power within myself to make change. And before I got into politics, I worked in the nonprofit sector. And there's some intersection there, because when you're looking at the challenges that communities are facing, you know that they're connected to policies. And so because UCO has always been focused on leadership and service, that's where my heart has always been. And anything that I've done in my work, whether it was in the nonprofit world or even now in politics, which can be a very difficult place to be, I try to focus on service and leadership over everything.
So looking back at your time as a student here, did you ever imagine you'd be running for governor one day?
No, I didn't. I mentioned being very active in student government. I was also very active in high school. And so I've always been very passionate about serving people, passionate about politics, making sure our leaders are held to a higher standard. That's always been important to me. But I thought that politics would probably be a little bit of a too divisive of a place for me. I am a natural harmonizer. I want everyone to get along. I want us to just solve problems. But when I looked back on my own lived experience and then my work in the nonprofit world, I decided that, someone like me needed to stand up and be in politics. I was recruited. I didn't just wake up and do it. And actually the first time I was ever asked to run for office, I came back here to speak to a leadership class, and that's where the first question was posed to me. And I was like, no, I love doing what I do. So no, actually being on campus right now and thinking about where I am today, I'm very grateful again, just for all the experiences I've had that has shaped me, and why it's so important to invest in education, because who knew, and it certainly should be something I'm doing. I don't fit the profile of a gubernatorial candidate, but I think that's what makes this time and me running so important.
Absolutely. Now, before you go, you'll be back on campus later this evening to speak at an event. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yes, I'm very excited about this. I always love coming back to campus and speaking to students, but this is the Asian American Student Association that I've been invited back to talk about perspectives of the Asian experience and leadership experience. And as I am the first Asian American woman to be elected to the legislature and the first to run for governor, and so I think it's important that students see that, look what's possible. Anything can happen, and what we look like and what our background is shouldn't stop us from reaching our dreams and going the limit. And so I am very grateful and excited to be back and share a little bit about my experience and hear what's on the hearts and minds of students. And I hope that we do talk a little bit about the governor's race and what challenges and issues they're facing and what they want to see in their next governor.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Back to you at the desk.